There's no surprise that the Indiana Fever looked best tonight when Caitlin Clark was surrounded by players that don't have an ego, surrounded by players that said, I'm going to be MVP of the WNBA this year. You see how easy it is when you just let Caitlin play ball and others follow suit?
Finally, after months of doubt, criticism, and endless debate, Caitlin Clark just reminded everyone exactly why she's that girl. The Indiana Fever didn't just beat the Atlanta Dream last night, they obliterated them 99-82 in a statement performance that shut down every voice claiming this team was somehow better without their generational star. This wasn't just a win, it was a warning.
Now a final 99-82. Right here, 29 points in the third quarter, 30 points in the fourth quarter. That might be the best second half of the season, the best fourth quarter of the season. Look at these bench points. 29 bench points tonight. And they withstood an absolute barrage by Jordan Canada, who had 26 points in the first half.
The haters said the Fever were better without Clark. They called her ball dominant. They claimed the offense flowed better when she wasn't on the floor. But where are those voices now? Because Friday night, we watched Caitlin Clark dismantle that entire narrative, piece by piece. And the best part? She didn't need to light up the scoreboard to dominate the game. Her vision, her pace, her leadership, it was all on display. She controlled the flow, created for teammates, and elevated everyone around her. This wasn't just a win, it was a masterclass in how a true superstar leads.
An inconsistent ride for Indiana, and for Clark as well, who's had to fight through a lot of injuries. But I think the encouraging thing from Cece was the fight that she showed on the floor. Clearly, she's not quite at 100%, still working her way back, hasn't found her three ball yet, but what she did was attack. She used the physicality against the defenders by putting her head down and going to the basket. That opened things up for her playmaking, which of course is another genius aspect of her game. Once that started clicking,
Let's talk about what really happened here. Sophie Cunningham came off the bench like a woman possessed, dropping 16 points and snatching 10 rebounds in an absolute masterclass. But here's the beautiful part, this wasn't Cunningham playing in spite of Caitlin Clark. This was Cunningham playing because of Clark. The chemistry between the two was undeniable, pulsing through every possession. Clark's court vision created open looks, and Cunningham made them count. This is what happens when a generational playmaker meets a fearless scorer. They elevate each other.
Cunningham, folks, this might have been the best Sophie Cunningham game she's played so far for the Indiana Fever. When she hit those nail-in-the-coffin threes against the Minnesota Lynx, we were already up in that game. Yes, nail-in-the-coffin, awesome. But we were down in the third quarter. We were down 52-47 in the third quarter. And we came back and won. And that started with Sophie Cunningham hitting a big three.
The haters spent weeks telling us the Fever were more dangerous without Caitlin Clark. ESPN's Carolyn Peck even went on national TV and said Indiana was more dangerous when Clark doesn't play. Can you believe that? The audacity. They really tried to convince us that the best rookie in WNBA history, the player who shattered attendance records and single-handedly reignited interest in the league, was somehow a liability. But Friday night? That was revenge served ice cold. Clark didn't just silence the noise, she turned it into fuel and lit the whole arena up with it.
Didn't I say that they need Caitlin Clark? I mean, come on, guys. See, this is why you don't listen to ESPN. Idiots like Carolyn Peck said they are more dangerous without Caitlin Clark. It's such the... She should be indicted and go to jail for that comment. That's one of the dumbest comments.
Clark finished with 12 points and 9 assists, but those numbers barely scratched the surface of what really happened on that court. Sure, she went 5 of 17 from the field and struggled from beyond the arc, but her fingerprints were on every single possession. She wasn't just playing, she was orchestrating. Controlling the pace, setting up teammates, reading the defense like a seasoned vet. And when the Fever found themselves down 3 in the third quarter, it wasn't panic, it was precision. Clark flipped the switch, and with her leadership and court vision, she turned a tight battle into a full-on rout. That's not just stats, that's impact.
So, the big way they were able to neutralize Caitlin Clark, and I think it was almost an issue with Stephanie White as much as anything, is they were manhandling her. They were manhandling Caitlin Clark early in that game. Like, they had 2 hands on her. They were fully getting into the we are grabbing her and we don't really care. Like, that was their goal. Their goal was, they were out there to maul Caitlin Clark. They had no, they had absolutely no intention of doing anything other than maul.
If you are enjoying, please subscribe. You want to know what made this game so beautiful? It was Sophie Cunningham coming off the bench like a woman possessed. Oh my goodness. Sophie Cunningham lit up the Atlanta Dream with ice in her veins, draining 4 of 5 from beyond the arc and delivering a season-high 16 points when the Fever needed her most. But let's be clear, this wasn't just Sophie getting hot. This was Clark effect in full motion. Defenders glued to Caitlin Clark 30 feet from the basket left Cunningham wide open to feast. When you've got defenders chasing Clark through screens and bracing for logo threes, that's when shooters like Cunningham thrive. It's not just basketball, it's beautiful chaos, orchestrated by a generational talent.
Let's go right here. Sophie Cunningham, let's check it out. And she's got the long three way downtown, boom. Way down, boom. So, real nice, all-around performance. Second half was great ball tonight. No doubt about it. But Stephanie White let the team cook.
But here's what really made this special, the chemistry between Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. You could see it unfolding in real time. Every time Clark drove into the lane, Cunningham was locked and loaded on the perimeter, ready to cash in. Every time the Dream tried to collapse on Clark, boom, kick out to Sophie for a wide-open three. That's not luck. That's elite basketball IQ and pure synergy. Cunningham understands her role, and more importantly, she understands Clark's gravity. As Sophie herself said, when she's with us, you play a different style of basketball. That's not a dig, it's basketball intelligence. It's about recognizing how to adapt, how to elevate, and how to win. This is what happens when talent meets awareness. And together, they just made a statement.
Hey, you know what? It's about dang time, let me tell you. I have my... Shoot, it's been a second. I just think for the team, you know, we've had a lot of injuries, we've had a lot of movement. When C's playing, it's a whole different team, and when she's back, you know, we got to catch our rhythm. She's a heck of a player, but we got to find ways to get her involved, but keep people hot. But, you know, for me, it finally felt good. It felt good. Like I said, my family's here, my sisters, my best friends, and so it just felt good to have my family here, so I thought I should do something.
That player is Caitlin Clark. The third quarter was the turning point, not just in the game, but in the entire narrative around this team. Down 63-60 with 3:38 left in the third, the Fever clamped down on defense, holding Atlanta without a single field goal the rest of the quarter. They closed the third with a burst, then detonated in the fourth with an 11-2 run, flipping the score to 80-67 and never looking back. This wasn't a one-woman show, it was Clark unlocking the potential in her entire squad. Kelsey Mitchell exploded for 25 points. Aaliyah Boston added 19 and dropped dimes like a true facilitator. And just like that, the Fever morphed into the juggernaut fans were promised back in May. Their 59 second-half points weren't just a stat, they were a statement. The most in any half this season, tied for the most in 7 years. That's not a fluke. That's what happens when your star knows how to lead, how to uplift, and how to win even when her shot isn't falling. Clark didn't just play. She orchestrated. And the Fever finally looked like contenders.
And be herself. We started playing an up-tempo type style that forced the Atlanta Dream to react to what we were doing. Instead of us trying to counterpunch, Atlanta Dream, they found themselves against the ropes. And there we were, Kelsey Mitchell in the third quarter, slugging away. Sophie Cunningham in the third quarter, slugging away. AB in the fourth quarter.
That player is Caitlin Clark. The third quarter was the turning point, not just in the game, but in the entire narrative around this team. Down 63-60 with 3:38 left in the third, the Fever clamped down on defense, holding Atlanta without a single field goal the rest of the quarter. They closed the third with a burst, then detonated in the fourth with an 11-2 run, flipping the score to 80-67 and never looking back. This wasn't a one-woman show, it was Clark unlocking the potential in her entire squad. Kelsey Mitchell exploded for 25 points. Aaliyah Boston added 19 and dropped dimes like a true facilitator. And just like that, the Fever morphed into the juggernaut fans were promised back in May. Their 59 second-half points weren't just a stat, they were a statement. The most in any half this season, tied for the most in 7 years. That's not a fluke. That's what happens when your star knows how to lead, how to uplift, and how to win even when her shot isn't falling. Clark didn't just play. She orchestrated. and the Fever finally looked like contenders.
This game, in the second half, we didn't take our foot off the gas. We put our foot on the throat of the Atlanta Dream. We didn't tell Caitlin Clark, whoa there, lassie. No, we said, Caitlin Clark, roam free. Fly like a butterfly. Flap your wings. Spread your wings. And watch the team.
For months, we've heard the tired narrative that the Fever were better without Clark. ESPN's Carolyn Peck made waves by claiming Indiana was more dangerous when Clark didn't play because she was ball dominant. That narrative got louder when the Fever won a couple of games without her during her injury absence. But here's what really happened. The Fever went 2-3 in Clark's last 5 games out with injury. They struggled to close out games. They missed her playmaking and clutch moments. And they looked like a team missing their best player, which is exactly what they were. Friday night's performance was the definitive answer to all those critics. Clark didn't need to score 30 points to prove her worth. She didn't need to take 20 shots to show her value. She proved that her impact goes far beyond the box score, that her presence makes every single teammate better, and that this team reaches its ceiling only when she's on the floor.
Best player on the team. Now, they show that they're a quality basketball team without Caitlin Clark, but they're not a championship team without Caitlin Clark. They proved that, okay? So with that said, they need Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark sets her teammates for success, sets better plays, better passing. I guarantee you Caitlin Clark played that game, they would have won. I mean, come on, the matchup would have been...
You know what's beautiful about performances like this? The silence that follows. Where are all the critics now? Where are the people who were saying the Fever were better without their best player? Where are the analysts who were pushing the narrative that Clark was somehow holding this team back? They're nowhere to be found because there's nothing left to say. When you watch Sophie Cunningham hit 4 of 5 from 3, when you see Kelsey Mitchell score 25 points, when you watch Aaliyah Boston facilitate with 8 assists, you realize that all of this happens because of Clark, not in spite of her. The fact that Clark can have an off-shooting night and still completely control the game shows you exactly what level she's playing at. She's not just a scorer, she's a floor general, a leader, a player who makes everyone around her better just by being on the court. Sophie Cunningham showed up. This was the kind of game that we've sort of been waiting on from Sophie. Her breakout Indiana Fever performance. The rebounds were huge. By the way, she had
Sophie Cunningham showed up. This was the kind of game that we've sort of been waiting on from Sophie. Her breakout Indiana Fever performance. The rebounds were huge. By the way, she had, I believe, 7 or 8 rebounds in the first half of this game. All right, before she started knocking down